shake you. Because this is not 2010, this is not a 25-year-old LeBron James arriving in Miami still trying to figure out how to win a championship for the first time. This is a 41-year-old LeBron who has been to the finals 10 times, won 4 championships, passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the NBA's all-time leading scorer, and still averaged 20.9 points, 7.2 assists, and 6.1 rebounds per game last season while shooting 51.5% from the field. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who even while playing only 36 games due to injury last season, averaged 27.6 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 5.4 assists on 62% shooting, and finished as the most dominant on-off player in the entire league, with Milwaukee being 14.5 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the floor. And this is Bam Adebayo. 20 points, 10 rebounds, making a career-high 1.7 three-pointers per game. Voted to the all-defensive second team for the second straight year, developing into one of the most sophisticated two-way centers in basketball. 3 players, 3 completely different kinds of catastrophe. One city, and the rest of the NBA has no answer for what just happened. Now, to understand the full weight of this moment and why it connects to something that already rocked the league, you have to go back to June 22nd, 2026. That is the night the earthquake started. That is the night Pat Riley, who refused to retire, refused to step aside, refused to accept that Miami was done competing, completed one of the most stunning superstar acquisitions in recent memory. The Miami Heat landed Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jamie Jaquez Jr., Kasparas Jakusinas, 3 first-round picks including the number 13 selection in the 2026 draft, a first-round pick swap in 2030, and a second-round pick in 2033. It was a franchise-defining moment on both sides. Bucks co-owner Jimmy Haslam, who had driven the trade process after a year-long feud between Giannis and the organization, chose Miami's offer over Boston's to avoid the uncertainty of whether Jaylen Brown would stay in Milwaukee. And Miami won the sweepstakes that Boston, Minnesota, and the rest of the league had been chasing for months. The second Giannis landed in Miami, the basketball internet started drawing lines, because LeBron James at that exact moment was one of the most genuinely unsettled free agents in the history of the sport. His 2-year, $101 million contract with the Lakers had expired. He had exercised his $52.6 million player option for 2025 to 26, but entering the summer he had not committed to anything. ESPN's Ramona Shelburne confirmed that talks with the Lakers had been light, that no numbers had been discussed, and that retirement was genuinely on the table. LeBron had reportedly felt his sacrifices over recent years had gone underappreciated, including one particularly stinging moment when Rob Pelinka handed the game ball to Coach J.J. Redick on the same night LeBron became the winningest player in NBA history. The Lakers were already juggling Austin Reeves' extension, Luka Doncic's demands for a frontcourt upgrade, and a cap structure that made offering LeBron anywhere near his previous salary nearly impossible. Pat Riley saw all of that, and he moved. The trade was completed via sign and trade in the days following the draft. LeBron James is a Miami Heat player, and now we figure out exactly what that means. Let's start with what this version of LeBron actually brings to a basketball team, because it is different from anything Miami saw during his first run from 2010 to 2014. The 2010 LeBron was a 25-year-old athletic phenomenon, a force of nature who attacked the rim 60 times a game, posted up smaller players, and dominated stretches of basketball through sheer physical superiority. That version was dominant because of what his body could do. The 2026 version operates to something different entirely. LeBron has transformed over 2 decades into basketball's most complete offensive organizer. The ability to attack the rim is still present. 51.5% shooting last season does not happen accidentally, but the engine of his game is now his mind. He reads defenses before the ball moves, he identifies switching coverages as they're being set, he finds the window in a rotation that no other player in the game would even recognize as a window. He controls tempo through decision making rather than athleticism, and he does all of this while averaging 20 consecutive All-Star appearances, still making every play that his team needs him to make in the moments that matter. In Miami, surrounded by Giannis and Bam, LeBron would not be asked to carry possessions the way he was forced to in Los Angeles when Doncic and Reeves both missed significant time and he reverted to primary ball handler out of necessity. In Miami, LeBron becomes what he is best suited to be at this stage of his career: the floor general, the orchestrator, the player who makes every other star more dangerous simply by virtue of being on the floor and having the ball in his hands. And what he has around him in this version of Miami is unlike anything he has ever been given, because now we have to talk about Giannis. And when we talk about Giannis in this context, we are not just talking about statistics. We are talking about what happens to Giannis Antetokounmpo when the defensive wall that has slowed him down in playoff basketball for years simply no longer exists. For the better part of a decade, playoff defenses had a blueprint against Milwaukee. Pack the paint, drop your bigs, dare Giannis to shoot from behind the arc, where he makes just 28.5% for his career, and live with the results. Build a wall, funnel everything toward the spots where he is least dangerous. Milwaukee built its system around Giannis as a singular attacker, and defenses adjusted accordingly. That blueprint worked. The Bucks have not won a playoff series since 2022. Now put LeBron James on the other side of the floor as the offensive initiator. The wall disappears. You cannot pack the paint against LeBron when he has decision-making that punishes every overcommitment. You cannot drop your bigs when LeBron is pulling up from 17 feet with 51% efficiency. You cannot ignore the perimeter when the man reading your defense has been doing this for 21 professional seasons. The defensive attention that Milwaukee opponents used to place entirely on Giannis now has to be split. And when that split happens, when defenses have to genuinely account for LeBron, what opens up is a 7-foot, 243-pound locomotive running towards your basket at full speed with nowhere to go but through you. Giannis in transition, in space, with a head of steam, is one of the most unguardable forces in basketball. He has drawn more fouls per game than any other player in the league for 7 consecutive seasons. He finished 65% of his career attempts in the paint with a career best 71.3% last season. He has held opponents to just 52.2% shooting at the rim when defending. In this Miami system, with LeBron controlling the offense, the only thing standing between Giannis and the basket is math that no defense can solve. Then there is Bam Adebayo, and this is where the analysis goes from impressive to genuinely historic, because the player whose situation changes most dramatically in this scenario might actually be the center who was already here. People will focus on LeBron and Giannis when they think about this trio, as they should. But the player who gets liberated most completely by this arrangement is Bam. Last season, Bam averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and made a career-high 1.7 three-pointers per game while shooting 35.7% from deep, a number that improved to 43.5% over his final 35 regular season games. He registered multiple all-defensive team selections. He has developed a sophisticated short-roll playmaking game that most centers in the league cannot replicate. He is a switch defender capable of guarding every position on the floor. He has a 7'3" wingspan on a body that moves like a small forward. By any serious basketball metric, Bam Adebayo is one of the 15 best players in the world right now. But throughout his career in Miami, Bam has always carried a significant portion of the offensive creation burden, particularly in playoff settings where teams could scheme against the primary scorer and leave Bam to manufacture difficult looks against prepared defenses. Next to LeBron and Giannis, that burden evaporates. Defenses cannot triple team anyone. If help collapses on Giannis inside the paint, LeBron already sees it and has made the pass before the helper finishes their first step. If the coverage cheats toward LeBron on the perimeter, Giannis obliterates whatever is left in the paint. If defenses try to switch everything uniformly, Bam rolling to the dunker spot against the guard who just got switched onto him becomes a 2-point dunk before anyone can react. He no longer has to create difficult possessions. He operates from the elbows in space. He posts up smaller defenders who get caught in switching actions. He finishes above the rim against mismatches that the LeBron-Giannis gravity creates. He becomes the release valve that keeps possessions alive, instead of the player who has to carry the entire offensive load when everything else breaks down. Let's walk through exactly how this offense works possession by possession, because the tactical specifics matter more than any general description could. LeBron initiates from the top of the key. He holds the ball long enough to read the defense, which he does faster than any player alive, and Bam sets a ball screen from the elbow. The moment that screen arrives, the defense faces an immediate problem. LeBron turns in the corner while the screener rolls, all while Giannis is cutting from the weak side and a floor spacer sits in the corner waiting for a kick out. That is 4 offensive threats created by one ball screen. The defense cannot cover all four simultaneously. LeBron does not force anything because patience is baked into his game at age 41. He waits for the coverage to commit somewhere and punishes the commitment. On the next possession, the action inverts entirely. Giannis handles the ball at the top of the key, LeBron becomes the screener, and now defenses face a completely different problem. How do you guard a cutting LeBron James off of a Giannis handoff at 41 years old when he is still fast enough to beat most wings to the basket? Do you switch and put a guard on Giannis? Do you fight through the screen and gamble that LeBron does not establish position near the rim? There is no comfortable answer. In transition, the combination becomes something that simply cannot be drawn up against. LeBron identifies the opening in the floor at full speed, pushes the pace with his vision, delivers a hit-ahead pass to Giannis before the opposing defense can get set, and Giannis converts at the rim at a 70+% clip before a single rotation can take place. And when the shot clock winds down and the designed action has not produced the ideal look, Bam is the reset, receiving the ball in the short roll, reading the secondary defense in real time, and finding the next open outlet with the playmaking sophistication he has spent 9 NBA seasons building. The defensive dimension of this team is where the conversation shifts from interesting to genuinely unprecedented in the modern era. Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the greatest individual defenders the league has produced in the past decade. His rim protection numbers alone place him top 5 among all players tracked in 13 years of data. Bam Adebayo has made the all-defensive team multiple times, is a top 5 switching center in the entire league, and combines a 7'3" wingspan with the lateral mobility of a perimeter player. Together at the same time, which is something no team in the modern era has ever had, they form one of the most devastating interior defensive pairings in NBA history. And with LeBron on the wing, still averaging 1.2 steals per game at 41, still communicating rotations with the basketball intelligence that comes from 2 decades of studying every offensive system imaginable, Miami's switching structure becomes a defense that opposing offenses genuinely cannot navigate. Teams will not be able to find mismatches, every switch gets covered, every isolation gets disrupted at the point of attack or by a rim protector waiting behind it. The half-court offense becomes something that breaks down under the weight of 3 players who can each guard multiple positions and who collectively create the most comprehensive defensive unit in the Eastern Conference. And this directly solves the single biggest weakness that has haunted Miami's playoff identity for years. The Heat last season finished 10th in the Eastern Conference with a 43-39 record and lost in a play-in game to the Charlotte Hornets. They missed the playoffs entirely for the first time since 2018 to 2019. The core problem throughout recent Miami seasons has been the inability to generate consistent half-court scoring and secondary creation in playoff settings. The moments when defenses tighten, schemes adjust, and the team needs someone who can create a quality shot at the point of attack when the design play breaks down. When the team had Jimmy Butler, defenses game plans specifically to slow him and leave the supporting cast to beat them. The supporting cast stepped up more often than anyone expected, but it was never a foundation that could sustain 4 playoff rounds. LeBron James eliminates that problem at its root. He is the secondary creation that Miami has always been missing, not just in 2026, but in every version of his team since the original Big Three. He averaged 7.2 assists per game last season at 41 years old, while shooting over 50% from the field. He turns dead possessions into opportunities through decision-making alone. Giannis raises the pressure at the rim and forces defenses to account for him at all times, even when the play is not designed for him. And Bam stabilizes everything in the middle spaces, keeping the system coherent as the connective tissue between the team's 2 most explosive talents. Before we talk about where this team fits against the rest of the NBA, compare this imagined trio to LeBron's original Miami Big Three, the version with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh that produced 4 finals appearances and 2 championships from 2010 to 2014. That comparison is the one everyone will reach for immediately, and it is worth having precisely. The original Big Three was built around one of the most explosive perimeter scorers in history in Wade, a skilled power forward who stretched the floor and operated from the elbow in Bosh, and a 25-year-old LeBron who was still learning the full dimensions of his own offensive genius. The offensive identity of that team leaned on one-on-one creation, transition, and the ability of Wade and LeBron to create for each other out of isolation. Defensively, it was excellent but not structurally smothering. This version of Miami is constructed differently at its foundation. It is bigger, it is more positionless, it is less reliant on perimeter shot creation and more built around elite decision-making, rim pressure, transition dominance, and defensive versatility that covers every style of offense. The modern championship template that this trio most closely resembles is not the first Miami team, but something more like the defensive architecture of the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers, combined with the interior dominance of the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks. Except this version has both simultaneously on the same roster, with a floor general running the offense who was better at that job than anyone either of those teams ever had. Now let's get to the outcomes, because this is not just about three great players sharing a locker room. This is about what this team actually does to the rest of the NBA, specifically matchup by matchup, and how it compares to what Miami was before this move. Before the Giannis trade, the Heat were a 43-win team that missed the playoffs. After acquiring Giannis alone, sportsbooks moved them from 30-1 to 18-1 to win the championship. BetMGM's risk manager specifically noted the spacing concerns between Giannis and Bam as the primary question mark, and the Heat entered the 2026 offseason ranked 5th in Eastern Conference Championship odds, behind the Celtics and defending champion New York Knicks. That is what Giannis alone did to Miami's ceiling. Now add LeBron James. Add the one player in basketball specifically designed by 21 years of evolution to solve the spacing problem, a floor general whose decision-making opens passing lanes that create easy looks for everyone else, whose presence forces defenses to account for the perimeter even when he is not primarily a perimeter threat. The spacing concern that bookmakers identified as Miami's primary weakness gets answered by the exact player whose entire game is built around creating efficient looks for every star around him. Let's talk about the specific matchups that matter. Start with the team that just won the championship, the New York Knicks. The Knicks won the 2026 finals by going 6-2 in playoff games where they trailed by double figures, rallying from double-digit deficits in all 4 of their wins over the San Antonio Spurs, including the largest comeback in finals history at 29 points down in Game 4. Their identity was built on Jalen Brunson's elite clutch playmaking, Karl-Anthony Towns at center, OG Anunoby's wing defense, and Mikal Bridges as a versatile secondary scorer. That Knicks team was genuinely excellent. A top 5 offense, a top 10 defense, and the ability to morph their game plan on the fly. Against this imagined Miami trio, the matchup problems are severe. The Knicks' switch in defense was their calling card. Against Giannis, Bam, and LeBron, every switch becomes a nightmare. Brunson against Giannis in the post is unwinnable. Towns against LeBron as a playmaker is a mismatch that gets punished immediately. Anunoby is an excellent wing defender, but he is not equipped to slow down a LeBron operating as floor general at 41 years old in a system specifically built to generate easy shots. And in the clutch, where Brunson and the Knicks built their entire identity, you now have LeBron James making late game decisions on the other side of the floor. His playoff record in clutch situations over 21 seasons is the most accomplished in basketball history. The Knicks are the defending champions. Against this Miami team, their path to a repeat is genuinely unclear. Then look west at the co-favorites entering 2027, the San Antonio Spurs and Oklahoma City Thunder. The Spurs, led by Victor Wembanyama and a young core of Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and De'Aaron Fox, went to the finals this past June, after beating the Thunder in 7 games in one of the most dramatic Western Conference series in recent memory. Wembanyama averaged 41 points and 24 rebounds in a double overtime Game 1 thriller against Oklahoma City. He is the most physically unique player in basketball, 7'4", with defensive instincts that defy his age, a shooting range that extends to the logo, and an offensive toolkit that is still expanding. But imagine Giannis Antetokounmpo as the primary defensive assignment against Wembanyama, not a guard trying to chase him off the three-point line, not a center who gets lost in space. Giannis, the player who held opponents to 52.2% at the rim, who has the lateral mobility to switch onto guards, who can crowd Wembanyama in the post while also tracking his movement to the perimeter. Bam as a secondary help defender behind them. LeBron rotating from the weak side with 21 seasons of defensive IQ. The Spurs' young guards, as excellent as Castle and Harper were in these playoffs, have never faced a defensive system with this combination of length. switching ability, and physical dominance at every level of the floor. Oklahoma City, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaging 31 points per game during the regular season and Chet Holmgren as a versatile front court piece, present a different challenge. The Thunder's offense revolves around SGA's creation from the perimeter and transition buckets generated by their aggressive defensive pressure. Against this Miami team, Giannis and Bam eliminate the paint entirely. LeBron, as a communicating defender, erases the easy reads that SGA lives on. And in transition, the Thunder's most potent weapon, you are now asking your offense to beat Miami running the other way with Giannis in the open floor. That is a mathematical problem that no team currently constructed is equipped to solve. Now let's look at what this does to Miami specifically as an organizational transformation, not just a talent addition. Before this scenario, the Heat were heading into 2026 with a roster that had genuine foundational pieces, Giannis and Bam as a starting frontcourt that was immediately recognized as perhaps the most versatile defensive frontcourt in the modern game, but legitimate structural concerns. The projected starting lineup entering the season included Andrew Wiggins, who averaged 15.5 points, 4.9 rebounds, and 2.1 three-pointers last season while holding his own defensively, and Norman Powell as the primary perimeter scorer. Bobby Portis came over in a trade as a frontcourt depth piece. That configuration was good. It was legitimately competitive. Sportsbooks had them as 5th best in championship odds in a landscape where the Celtics and defending champion Knicks still sat firmly ahead. But without LeBron, the half-court creation question remained real. Without a playmaker who could manufacture quality late-game possessions when defenses clamped down, Miami was still one step behind the teams that had figured out how to win in the second half of playoff games. LeBron solves that problem completely. He becomes the offensive coordinator that no two-player combination of Giannis and Bam could ever be on their own, because neither of them is wired to be the primary decision maker in the way he is. He does not take possessions away from either of them. He amplifies them. Every action Giannis runs becomes more dangerous because LeBron draws attention away from it. Every roll Bam makes becomes more efficient because LeBron delivers the ball in his hands in rhythm instead of in desperation. The Heat go from a team with a great front court and a spacing question to a team with a complete offensive system built around 3 stars who make each other better in ways that defenses cannot simultaneously account for. There are real questions that any honest analysis has to raise. The spacing issue, while LeBron addresses it through decision making, does not disappear entirely. Giannis at 28.5% from 3-point range is a shooter opponents can leave if they choose to ignore him beyond the arc. Miami gave up its primary perimeter shooter in Tyler Herro as part of the Giannis trade, and the roster construction around these 3 stars will require specific additions of shooters capable of keeping defenses stretched enough that all 3 can operate at their best. The first apron salary constraints, with Miami hard capped after using the expanded trade exception to acquire Giannis, leave approximately $18 million in space to fill 4 roster spots around the primary core, a financial tightrope that demands careful construction. Age management for LeBron is a genuine ongoing challenge. He is 41 years old. He still performs at a level that defies everything we thought we knew about athletic decline. But a championship run requires deep playoff series played at maximum intensity, and managing his minutes across an 82-game regular season while preserving him for the moments that matter most will test even Eric Spoelstra's organizational brilliance. And then there's the question of whether 3 stars of this magnitude can truly subordinate their individual needs to the collective without generating the friction that has derailed super teams before. LeBron has answered that question before in Miami and won 2 championships doing it, but those were different times, different stars, and a different LeBron. What you cannot argue against is the championship math. You combine 10 finals appearances between LeBron alone, plus Giannis' 2021 title and finals MVP performance, where he averaged 35.2 points and 13.2 rebounds per game, plus Bam's own finals experience in 2020 from the bubble. All of that collective playoff tested knowledge with elite two-way versatility across 3 completely different player archetypes with transition dominance that the modern game cannot contain. And with LeBron James making late game decisions in close playoff games against any team currently constructed in this league, and you have the most dangerous team the Eastern Conference has assembled since the original Miami Big Three were at their absolute peak. The Eastern Conference, as we saw this past season, has no dominant force right now. The Celtics were bounced in the first round by Philadelphia. The Knicks are defending champions, but built on clutch moments and comebacks, not structural superiority. The Pistons and Cavaliers are talented but young. This Miami team, built around three of the most decorated players in the modern era, under the coaching of the man who has won 2 championships with LeBron already in this exact building, enters 2027 as the most credible championship contender this conference has seen in years. And yet there is something beyond the basketball analysis that makes this moment enormous in a way that statistics and salary cap projections cannot fully capture. There is something about LeBron James going back to Miami that resonates beyond any tactical breakdown. South Beach is where LeBron became a champion for the first time. It is the city where the criticism turned into celebration, where 4 consecutive finals appearances validated every decision he made in the summer of 2010 in a way that silenced every doubter who followed him there. And coming back at 41, not as the kid who made the decision on national television, not as the unproven star trying to prove he could win, but as the most accomplished player in the history of professional basketball, walking through the doors of the Kaseya Center to play alongside a 2-time MVP and one of the best two-way centers alive, chasing one more championship